Mark, first off, everybody come through okay from the weekend, as far as you know?
All good, thankfully.
Good. Which is real positive, isn't it, when you had the short space of time between the games Wednesday to Saturday and then tomorrow as well?
Very much so. So so far so good.
When you reflect back on Saturday, how good a 3 points was it in the context of the season?
It was massive. It was a massive game because I just felt there was a lot of pressure on us, because I didn't really want to talk about it out loud. At some point Cheltenham are going to score goals, at some point they're going to beat somebody, and the longer it goes, the more pressure on the team they play against. I thought apologies for saying this, because the bottom line is we lost on Wednesday and nobody likes losing, but it was a bit of a euphoric night in terms of how we played. It was just so important to back the performance up with minimum a result, but hopefully a result and a performance. And I thought for the first 35 minutes against Cheltenham, I thought we were outstanding.
And is that really important that you try and get that consistency out of your players game by game, no matter what the opposition is?
Yes, to answer your question. I think we are very consistent as a team, or as consistent as you can get for League One, if that makes sense, because the further you get down the pyramid, it's consistency that probably the percentages come down a tad. So I think we are pretty consistent. We just tweaked a couple of things for Saturday, which I don't really want to talk about. And looking at the stats and the things we were looking for, they came out. So that was a big plus for me as well, in terms of some tactical implementation. So that was really good.
Leyton Orient unchanged in their last 4 games. Does that make them, in terms of scouting them, an easier way to scout than it was, for example, West Ham, who you didn't know what they were going to do when it comes to team selection?
Not for me, because somebody's DNA is the DNA, the methodology is the methodology. So, Richie's had an outstanding career. He's a young manager, but he's not, because he's had a hell of a lot of football. And it's all the more impressive because Richie had an outstanding playing career. So sometimes we look at coaches who are outstanding. I'll use Liam as an example at Oxford, and I use Liam fondly because he's a friend. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, didn't have the football career that he'd started out on his journey. So started coaching really, really well, and has become an outstanding coach and becomes a young coach. But Richie's had an outstanding career with longevity in it, and has now already had a lot of games behind him in his short, long journey, if you like. But Richie's style of playing and how he plays is attractive. It's evident, and we know what it is. So we know what to expect with Leyton Orient, irrespective of whether they change personnel or even change shape. No different than when we're coming. If I don't know whether managers watch my interviews, but we will be linking tomorrow.
When you look at their side as well, full of experience, they got a lot of know-how, do you feel, in their team? They
got some good players, yeah. And as touched on, great manager. It's a big club with a big history, a huge fan following as well. Tough place to go. Off the back of a promotion, really solid start. They've had some good wins this year. And I look round at some of the players they got some good individuals. And I keep saying this, if to play anybody in our league, we had West Ham and we had a Premier League team on Wednesday and a team on Saturday that was struggling, and we had to be at our best to get a performance in one game and a result in the other. Tomorrow will be no different.
I asked this to Ethan when we spoke to him, but we're up to game number 10 in the league season by the end of tomorrow night. Do you feel at the moment the league is a fair reflection of where you should be?
Really good question. I'm pleased we are where we are. I expected us to do well this year. I expected us to kick on from last year. And sometimes, without protecting myself, sometimes kicking on, you can improve and take your club forward, but you might end up in a poorer position, but you can see the progress and you can see what's coming at the end of it. So I did really expect us. I was really confident and positive coming into the season that we could be a force to be reckoned with. I think in your first year, people can say you got lucky, or what will they be next year? Managers had a solid start, but let's see what they're all about now. I don't know. I really firmly believe that. But then we unfortunately had the setback through some really key players in in one position, so that was disappointing. So am I pleased with where we are? Yes, I am, but we're still in an area of the season where things can turn really, really quickly. So I look at other teams in other leagues where they were a couple of weeks ago and where they are today. It's like, oh, they've dropped down or somebody's risen up.
And do you, as a manager, when do you really feel the league settles in that sense then?
Yeah, last year I said 15 games. I was chatting to somebody yesterday and I was thinking, I think another 7 games. You'll probably look at the league and you'll figure out where everybody is, where they are, and there'll be a couple of perhaps anomalies where somebody will rise out of the pack or somebody will drop like a stone. But I think in 5 to 7 games time that the league will really start to take its shape.
And this week has been a real interesting week, isn't it? The Cheltenham side, probably many people expect you to beat. Leyton Orient, a team you don't know what's going to happen. Tough game, and then Peterborough, you know, people expect a promotion challenger. It's a League One encapsulated, isn't it, really, in 8 days? Yeah.
One thing that I never veer far from is that irrespective of who you're playing, if you're not at your best, you're going to come unstuck. And likewise for the opposition. 3 very different teams on paper, all as equally as hard as each other for multiple reasons.
And Danny Manjoy obviously made his return on Saturday. You're having to manage him because of the other injuries as well that you've got in that attacking area?
Yes and no. I think we'll have to manage him because of the injury. I think that's going to be a constant discussion with Danny and the medical team. We've spoke about it again today. Not so much because of the other injuries, that Danny's participation in the team won't be decided on the people we don't have. If he's fit to play 90 minutes or 70 or 20, we'll maximise on that because he's a top player for us. But we will take that on a daily basis.
I hope I don't kill this podcast, by the way. When it eventually came about that Lincoln had an interest in me, I remember ringing my agent going, "You're not going to believe who's rang me." I was thinking I could get battered here. You know, rightly so, by the way. We were just being beat 4-0 by our rivals. And then we went over, and honestly, the hair stood on the back of my neck. One of the big sells to players coming here is the fans. If you keep changing your manager or whoever it is every 5 minutes, well, how do you know if it works? You've not given it time. You don't watch a movie and after 20 minutes go, "This is rubbish."
Was it difficult to comprehend playing for such a big club at such a young age?
Sorry, the reason I'm pausing is I was quite reckless. And I just said to him, I can't go to the World Cup. And he's like, "Why?" I said, I'm struggling. I'm really, really struggling. And I basically just burst into tears and he gave me the biggest hug in the world. I think a lot of people probably see my career, if I'm being honest, as probably underachieving.
May 2022, you are named as head coach of this club. Has it been everything you'd hoped? Everything you wanted?
It's amazing. Played football for 20 years, but for me, this is another level.